Welcome to the Better Together podcast. I'm your host, Kyla, and we have a good topic today. I think it's a very relatable one for a lot of you. And before I get into the episode topic, I'm going to be reading my Journey to the Heart entry, which I've been doing at the beginning of each episode. Please let me know if you're liking this. Let me know if you're not liking it. I don't have to keep doing it if it's boring and not fun and unrelatable. So please keep your girl updated. I'm feeling good today. I just washed my face and did my skincare routine. It's later in the evening, a Friday night, so I'm feeling very chill and taking the night easy, doing my own thing, working on my own stuff, and recording an ep. And I kind of like recording an ep at later in the evening when I don't really have anything to do and I'm kind of on my own. So it's nice. And I didn't make any plans tonight, which is also nice. Sometimes it's important to not make plans and to just stay home and chill. The last couple of weekends, maybe even the last few weekends, I have had my weekends booked, very busy, and haven't really had a lot of rest and time to think and chill. And sometimes you need that. So this weekend is going to be that for me. And this Friday is that for me. And it feels good. And I'm happy with it. So let's get into the Journey to the Heart entry. This one is called The Spiritual Experience is You. When I look at people now, I don't see issues, he said. I see souls. The man said he had a spiritual experience. Actually, he said he had 4. He didn't go to the mountains or the ocean or the desert to have them. He had his 4 spiritual experiences in the same place, in the parking lot outside a Shell gas station in Portland, Oregon. The car filled with light. I filled with light. My heart just opened up and I forgave everyone I was resenting, he continued. Even my ex-wife. We don't have to search for spiritual experiences. We are these spiritual experiences. A spiritual being having a human life. Look at the people around you. Now look again and see souls. See them having many kinds of spiritual experiences in the form of human life. When you look for holy ground, look down. That's where your spiritual experience takes place. Right where you're standing, wherever you are now. That was nice. I liked that. I kind of feel like that was sort of recentering in a way, and just generally thought-provoking. I feel like we are always constantly moving and going and never noticing the things around us, and sometimes it's nice to take a pause, and our bodies aren't just machinery that we're operating, but we're a soul, we're a being, and it's important to notice that, we only have one life, and sometimes it's nice to slow down and recognize that and take time to be aware of things going on around you. I don't do that enough, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners don't do that enough. Today we're going to be talking all about friendships and relationships and just how, relationships can change as you get older and going through friend breakups and all of that. And I want to just give a reminder, and I know I say this a lot, but I just want to remind everybody to take everything I say with a grain of salt. I am not an expert, and I am just using my personal experiences to share insight on what I've learned from those things. So first, we're going to be talking about platonic relationships, friendships. When I was in high school, I didn't really know myself very well, and I didn't really understand what I needed out of friendships. And so a lot of my friendships were based around partying and having a good time and trying to be someone that I wasn't, being quote unquote cool and trying to get in with the cool crowd or the party crowd, and that wasn't really me. And I didn't realize it at the time. So I want to preface this and say that even though I didn't really understand myself at the time and the friends that I had made in high school, I'm not saying those weren't real friendships. They totally were, and they were valid, and they were lovely friendships. A lot of the friends that I was friends with in high school, I'm no longer friends with. Not for any particular reason, but, things change and you outgrow certain relationships, and that just comes with growing up. But I feel like when I look back now at the age I'm at now, and I look back at the friendships I had in high school, they were more surface level and more about getting invited to parties and like trying to be cool and meet boys and all of that kind of stuff. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I do feel like in high school you don't fully know yourself yet. There's so much to explore. A lot of times when you're in high school, at least for me, I grew up in a very like suburban area, and it was almost like a bubble for me. I remember growing up and kids calling it the bubble. So that's what I knew, and that's what I thought there was, and I didn't realize there was so much more after that. So I didn't realize that I could meet so many more people after high school. I didn't know that I could really find my crew, if you will. So high school was a time of really just trying to impress people and not understanding what I needed out of friendships, and not understanding that friendships are a mutual, and relationships in general take two people and you're both giving something into it. And I didn't always feel that in my high school friendships. I think I grew a lot from those relationships. I just don't think they suit me at that time. And I think the reasons that I was friends with certain people was based off of being cool and trying to impress people and trying to kind of mold myself into something that I wasn't, and I wasn't being true to myself in that. Then when I entered college, I felt like I finally met my people. Like I related more with the people that I was friends with, and it wasn't just about partying all the time, and it was really, making true connections, and it was about having the same values. And yeah, I think that really changed my perspective, and that's when I realized that the world was a much bigger place than I thought it was. I was no longer in this bubble. I was outside the bubble, and I was meeting people outside of the bubble, and the world became a much, much bigger place for me. And I also feel like when you're in high school and you're in college, you're surrounded by friends. You're always with friends. You have the time to be with friends. You're not doing things that you're not doing the adult stuff where you have to work constantly. I mean, some of us are working, obviously. I worked through college, but you're living with friends. You're constantly in class with friends. You're on your weekends, you're spending all your time with friends. So it's a really fun time. And especially for me in college, I was meeting people that I really felt like I was going to be friends with, people for life. And some of those friendships I still have today. And it's 9-10 years later almost. But then you graduate from college, or you're out of that world, not in that age range anymore, because I know not everybody goes to college, but you're not in that age range anymore. Like you're 21, 22, in the age range of graduating college, and people are just starting to enter the work world, and things change. And it's a little scary because you're no longer surrounded by friends constantly. People are now working every day or moving away. And I know for me, I graduated from college, spent the summer in the area that I went to college in, and then I moved to New York. And a lot of people I knew were moving, and a lot of people were getting jobs. And a huge change for me was not having friends always available constantly. And it's not like it happens suddenly, like it's a slower kind of change, I think sometimes. Like unless you're completely moving away. It's not like you're not living with friends. Like, I think as you progress in your 20s, these things like slowly change, depending on where you are, depending what your job is, depending on, moving and many other things. During this time for me, when I graduated college and I moved to New York, me and one of my best friends at the time, we moved together. And it was a very exciting time. I remember feeling super sad about graduating college. I really liked college. It was super stressful, but what I loved about it was being surrounded by friends and, just being a kid. That's what it was. You didn't have to worry about certain things. You didn't have to worry about living life on your own. Like, you're still somewhat supported by your parents in many ways. And yeah, I just remember feeling kind of sad that chapter was closing, but I was also really excited that a new chapter was about to unfold. And part of that was moving my entire life that I'd lived in Michigan to New York. And I was really excited. I think I don't even remember being that nervous, to be honest. I remember like the last couple of years in college, I worked a lot because I knew that I was going to end up moving to New York. That was the goal at the end of it. So I worked a bunch of jobs. I saved a lot of money to get myself there. So I didn't have a lot of anxiety. Like, I knew I was kind of set. And the friend I was moving with did have a lot of anxiety. She didn't have the opportunity to save as much money. And so I think, and I can't speak for her, and I'm not going to speak for her, but I think that she had more anxiety, I guess, about moving, but was excited and knew that this is what she wanted to do. So we moved together, and after living there for a year and then 2 years, I think in total, we lived in our apartment together, I had met a guy and we started dating and things got a little bit more serious, and I was thinking of moving in with him, and also this is the point where I started going to grad school and things were getting busier for me, and the dynamic between me and this friend were starting to change. And I didn't totally realize it while I was going through all this stuff. I think she probably realized this dynamic was changing way before I did, but our friendship was drifting apart. And eventually I did make the move and moved in with my boyfriend, who I'm still dating today. And I don't know if it was that caused the rift in our relationship, but I know that she was struggling with a lot on her end, with different things that she was going through. And I didn't fully understand it at the time. I do now, but I didn't fully understand it at the time. And I should preface and say, this was someone I felt was one of my, soul sisters in life. And we were very attached to each other. We had both kind of gone through breakups together, and we're very attached and, almost codependent in a way. And then, we lived together when we were in Michigan, and then we lived together when we were in New York, and we were very, very, very attached. And that didn't really change for me, but I think things changed for her when we moved to New York. And obviously I can't speak for sure. This is something that she would have to speak on, but on my end and how I interpreted it was that things were changing in our dynamic. And once I moved in with my boyfriend, things kind of progressed, and there was clearly this distance between us. And at the time I didn't understand it, and I remember texting her and being like, hey, let's get together soon. I really miss you. We haven't hung out in a while. And she texts me back and says something along the lines of, yeah, I have sort of been distancing myself from you, which was shocking to me at the time. I didn't understand it, and it felt very, honestly, it felt very hurtful. I'm the type of person who gets very attached to people, and I think part of that is because of the losses I've gone through. At the time, I had only lost my dad at this point. I say only. I lost my dad at that point a few years prior to that. And I just think that in general, like when you go through a sudden loss, you attach yourself to people more easily and stronger in a way. And I don't know if that like makes sense. I feel like I'm kind of just like spewing shit, but when you lose someone close to you suddenly, it makes losing someone else very, very, very scary. And that can be in friendship, it can be in intimate relationships, it can be in, death. But what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be just death. So I felt very attached to her in a way. So it came to me as a shock that she was saying, yeah, I have been distancing myself from you. And I didn't understand it. And she was going through her own shit and like figuring out her own stuff, like mental health wise, and like dealing with her own stuff, which I totally understood. I say understood. I totally understand now. I didn't totally understand then. And so to me, it felt like she was just kind of like breaking things off with me, and I didn't understand like what I did in the friendship to cause things to just basically suddenly stop and like for us to not be hanging out anymore, for there to be an issue. I didn't understand what the issue was. I knew that before having this like text exchange and like having a small conversation about it, that things felt weird, things were distant between us, but I didn't understand why. But I remember being really hurt, and I remember feeling just exactly like how you would feel going through a death. It felt like I was mourning, and that felt, I had never been through a friend breakup before. This was my first friend breakup, and to be without her in the world of New York, something we imagined together, felt very scary. Yes, I had my boyfriend, but anybody knows that like your partner is your intimate partner and person that you're with is different than one of your best friends or someone you're friends with. So fast forward a year and a half or so, my brother passes away, and I know I bring this up in a lot of other episodes, but super prevalent in my life, and just that's all super prevalent in my life, and has affected a lot of things, so I bring up that a lot. But anyway, so he passed away, and she reached out to me. And it had been a long, long time since she had reached out to me. She called me and left a voicemail. And in the voicemail, she said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but I do remember distinctly her saying, I love you. And to me, I was like, wait, what? You love me, but you haven't talked to me in this amount of time, and you said you didn't. How I took it was, you don't want to be friends with me anymore. And so, wait, you love me? That confused me a lot. And I took some time before responding to it, but eventually responded and texted and was like, I probably, but I can't remember exactly what I said. It's such a, when you go through something super traumatic, things become very blurry, and there's a lot that I can't remember around that time. But I think I said to her something along the lines of, I appreciate you reaching out, but I don't really understand why you would reach out to me, and like why you would say you love me when we haven't talked in this amount of time, and you said that you don't want to be friends with me, or something like that. And she took responsibility, and she was like, yeah, I there's a lot of details I'm not bringing into this, but basically we ended up having a conversation, and her and I said everything that I felt, and she listened and took responsibility for a lot of things and apologized, and we kind of rekindled our relationship. Now, I will say, one, in friend breakups, that doesn't always happen. And two, our relationship that was before all this happened will never be the same as, our relationship now will never be the same that it was prior to this, which sucks in a lot of ways, but maybe it's something that our friendship needed and what we needed from each other. Maybe being so codependent wasn't, being so codependent probably wasn't the healthiest. So honestly, things happened and played out the way that they were meant to be. There was a lot of like hurt in that, and I'm sure there was a lot of hurt on her side for a lot of things as well. But in the end, we like came back together, and I think in a lot of ways my brother's death rekindled our friendship. And yeah, so now we're in a good place. Like, we still talk. Again, things aren't like the same as they were, nor do I think they will be the same. I just think that, when you go through something like that, there's an evolution, I guess. And in friendships and relationships, you evolve. People change, and we both changed, and we're different people than we were prior to that. Now I want to talk about another friend breakup that I had. That friend breakup was, I don't know if this is relevant or feels relevant to like hear the age I was at certain friend breakups, but that first friend breakup happened when I was around like 20, probably 22, 23, probably 23. So then this next friend breakup happened when I was probably like 26, I want to say. So not like a super long time ago. I don't know. I feel like this friendship breakup kind of happened in parts. So around 25, 26, you could say it happened. This friend we got very close very quickly. It's not someone like I was friends with in college, like this other friend. This other friend I had been friends with throughout college, and then we moved together after college. This other friend we met in New York, got very close very quickly, and it was a similar thing like this. Not like, I wouldn't say we were like codependent on each other, but we were there was just like this instant like connection, instant like spark, I guess you could say, and we started hanging out like all the time. And it was during a time where I was in a place where I felt like I didn't have like a big circle of friends, and I was looking to like meet more people. So when we met, and also she was looking to meet more people too at the time. So like we just kind of like came together and were very close very quickly. And it was exciting. It's always exciting meeting new people. But anyways, it was exciting, and like we started hanging out all the time, whatever, and then suddenly it stopped. After a year or 2 years of being like really close, it stopped. And I just remember again feeling very like shocked and like, I don't understand why this is happening. There was a lot of confusion behind it, more confusion than the last friend breakup, I think, in a lot of ways, because there wasn't a direct conversation about anything. And then when I would bring things up, she would kind of try to just be like, oh, it's not really for, like, you have nothing to worry about, nothing's happening. But then there was like this distance between us, and we like stopped talking and hanging out as much as we did, which is fine. Like, we don't have to hang out constantly, but it was also kind of like, I don't understand, like, did I do something wrong? And it was, whenever I had brought it up, she would be like, no, nothing happened between us, like, whatever, like, this is just kind of how I am. Now I've learned, like, this is just how she is. She, like, gets close with certain people and then drifts off and is friends with, like, certain groups of friends. And I mean, again, I don't want to like speak for her, but it was just like a little bit of a different situation, like a little bit just didn't feel good. And something I've learned as I've gotten older in friendships is to be pickier with friends and not to give my full self right away, I guess. Not to not give my full self. Like, I think, I don't know. I felt like I gave myself away, basically, to her in a lot of ways. And that friendship was, like, kind of just taken away from me and suddenly, and it just didn't feel good. And so now I'm a lot more picky, and I am a lot more aware of the type of friends I choose. And I think I said this in a past episode, but I don't like surface level relationships. Like, I feel like when I get into a friendship or meet a new person and become friends with someone, and this is like friends and like more intimate relationships, like I need more substance. But I felt like I got really deep with this person, and then it kind of just stopped. And it felt weird to me, and it was hurtful, and I grieved that. And I grieved that last friendship too that I just talked about in a lot of ways. But what I've learned from both of those friend breakups is that friend breakups are so normal, and are so normal at this age. Just because you're learning and understanding yourself better, and you're understanding what you need out of those friendships better. And that's kind of why I share about these friend breakups and like talking about college friendships and high school friendships and not like knowing myself yet. I started to know myself in college, and I started to really know myself afterwards, after graduating and like navigating new friends and moving to New York and going through friend breakups. And I can honestly say I know myself even better than I did in high school and college. And I think that's just part of growing up. And friend breakups are just part of growing up. So that leads me into adult friendships and making friendships as an adult. I think when you're in school, when you're in school, it's like really easy to make friends because you're in the same place, doing the same things, and you're also in an environment where you're surrounded by people your age who are also probably interested in a lot of the same things you are. And so it's just easier to make friends when you're surrounded by people who have more free time, or not even free time, but are taking the same classes as you and are at the same age as you and at the same stage in life as you. It's easier to make friends. When you get out of those stages and you're in the real world, and I keep using the phrase the real world, all phases that I'm talking about are the real world. Being in high school, being in college, being at a younger age, you're still in the real world, of course. But I say real world meaning like getting out of school realm, I should say. And when you enter like the workforce and you enter in like when you're out of school, it's not as easy to make friends. It's not as easy to connect with people because your friends that you had made in school are now all busy and you're all spread out and you're not all in the same place. You're not all doing the same thing. And when you start to like go to work every day, you're also not working with people who are all in your same age group. And now you have the opportunity to, make work friends. But what if you don't like the people you work with? And then that doesn't give you that opportunity. Luckily, I work with really cool people, and I really, really am lucky. I really genuinely consider a lot of the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis my good friends. And that is a rare thing. But I do think, like, trying to make friends in the adult, I say adult world, and in the real world, but you guys know what I mean. Making friends outside of school and being in work is hard. It's different. It's not as easy to connect with people as it was when you're in college and you're in high school doing the same things as the people around you. Now you have to actually, like, make the effort and, like, go out of your way to make friends and to talk to people and to socialize. And it's not easy for everybody. Not everybody is outgoing. And you know, there are people who are more introverted and it's harder to, like, go into group settings. So I kind of wanted to just, like, talk about that and talk about, like, ways to find community in wherever you're at. And when I moved to New York, I moved, of course, with, like, one of my best friends. And a lot of the people I went to school with had already, like, a lot of the years prior than me were in New York. So I kind of had, like, my college community in New York for a little while. But I will say, like, a lot of those people have either moved to different places outside of New York or I'm not friends with them anymore. So trying to make new friends in a city is hard. And I think part of it is just, like, trying to find, like, community and the ways I have made friends. And I am not, like, I am an outgoing person, but I'm also, like, if you listen to the personality episode, you know that, like, I'm an outgoing person, but I also have, like, some introvert in me. And so it's not always easy for me to, like, go out of my circle or, like, comfort zone to try to meet people. So a lot of the ways that I, like, have met people are through work or through friends of friends. One of my really, really good friends right now, I met through my boyfriend, which was cool. She was dating somebody at the time, and we went to a party, and I met her, and we became friends. And so it can be as natural as that, or it can be, like, seeking out, you know, finding groups to make friends. Like, there's different communities, there's different meetup groups. There's even, I think, on, like, dating apps now, you can meet a lot of people. I think, I don't know the specific dating apps that you can meet people, so I'm not gonna, like, try to speak on that. But, you know, within your community, like, trivia night, or, like, I love going to yoga, and that's, like, a community in itself. And doing, like, seeking out, like, groups to join and going to, you know, coffee shops to work on stuff and meet people that way. I know it's hard to, like, just, you know, say hello, but, and, like, try to, like, I don't know, like, go up to someone out of the blue and just say, hey, like, I think you're a cool person. I've done that before, and I will be honest, it's not easy, and it comes with rejection sometimes, but, you know, that's part of it. But really what I'm trying to say is that you can go out of your way and try to make friends as an adult. It's not impossible. You can find groups in your community. You can do it on, you know, friendship apps or, you know, via dating apps, whatever. You can have one friend and they invite you to another thing or another event, or you go up to someone that you think, you know, has a cool outfit on, and you say something, and maybe that strikes a conversation, and you ask to hang out with them, whatever it may be. Making adult friendships is not always easy, and I'm not going to, like, invalidate that, but it's also not impossible. That leads me into romantic relationships. I used to believe that you were supposed to find the one, whatever that means. You are meant to be with that one person, that one soulmate. And again, bringing up the death of my brother, this changed my perspective. I used to think that you were meant to do something. Let me rephrase that. You were meant to be with one person for the rest of your life. And what I realized and what I've learned is that things, and I bring up the death of my brother because this is how this kind of shifted in my brain. Things just happen. Shitty things happen. And nothing is really like planned out. I think life, in my opinion, is more like the butterfly effect. You choose a path and things change. The future changes based on the thing you chose. So I think that fate and meeting your soulmate and the one doesn't really exist. And I don't think any choice you make is a wrong choice. I think that you have multiple soulmates and maybe you're meant to be with multiple people or maybe you're not, whatever. I don't think it matters. My new belief is that when you're with someone, you choose to be with them and it's a choice and it's not a matter of meant to be, but you choose to stay with them through the hard times and the good times. And anybody listening to this, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are in relationships. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are not in relationships. Relationships take a lot of work, and there are many, many ups and downs. And I think in a lot of relationships, you question whether you're supposed to be with someone or you're not supposed to be with someone, or I think that's a normal thing to question, especially in a longer term relationship. But I think at the end of the day, it's not about like you're meant to be with or you're not meant to be with. It's about coming together and choosing each other through the ups and the downs. And sometimes choosing each other is not always worth it. So then you break up. Sometimes choosing it is worth it and you stay together. And that's that. It's not a matter of meant to be or true love or love at first sight. This idea bothers me because it's not realistic whatsoever. And you can feel all those things, and like I'm not saying you can't feel all those things. You can feel those things, but when you're with someone for a long time, you go through many ups and downs. And you experience many ups and downs in your individual lives. And then those things that happen in your individual lives affect your relationship together. And it's about navigating those hard things together to make it work. And sometimes it doesn't always work. And that's not a bad thing. It's just about knowing what you want and what you want to continue to choose and what you don't want to continue to choose. It's not about, oh, I'm meant to be with this person and it cannot not work out because this is my soulmate. And I feel like I just had that belief for a really long time, which is kind of why I just share that. I want to share this quote because it relates to this idea of being with someone for a long time and the evolution of being with someone for a long time and how you both change and choosing each other and whatnot. And a friend shared this quote with me very recently, but it's loving someone. I mean, really loving someone means you are willing to admit the person you love is not what you first fell in love with, not the image you first had. And you must be able to like them still for being as close to that image as they are and avoid disliking them for being so far away. And that quote is by Samuel R. Delaney. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but that really resonated with me because that's so true. Like, the person you're with year one is not going to be that same person 6, 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. You guys evolve together. You choose to be with each other. You choose to sacrifice and compromise, and things, again, I keep saying evolve, but that's what it is. Things evolve, things change, but you do it together. And if you feel like you can't do it together, or there's too many differences, or you guys specifically don't have the same values, then that's when things don't work. But yeah, that is that. I wanted to do this episode because I feel like I have a lot of experience in like the friend breakup stuff, which is what I wanted to share, but I also have a lot of experience in the romantic relationship department. I've been with my boyfriend for, it will be 6 years in December, and we've gone through many ups and downs in our relationship, and we've had a lot of really good times, and we've also had some not great times, and navigating that together. And so I say all this is just because, you know, I've learned a lot from my past experiences, and that's what I wanted to share. And that's why I wanted to share this and share kind of what I've learned from that and what I've taken away. So I'm curious what you guys thought of this episode. Have you had friend breakups? What was that like for you? How do you navigate your own relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic? Share your breakup stories too. Share your friend breakup stories. Share making new friends, or meeting new romantic partners. I'm curious about it all. Thank you once again for tuning in, and please give a like, a comment, a share, a follow. I have all my stuff linked below, but I'll also say it because I say it every time. Please follow me on my personal Instagram, which is Kyla_Milberger. Follow me on the_bettertogether_podcast, and send in questions, comments, stories, advice, whatever you want to share at thebettertogetherpod@gmail.com. And again, thanks so much for listening.